Hey boys, welcome to the first episode in my new NRL 2018 SUPERCOACH series. I got back into SUPERCOACH last year. I was very keen on SUPERCOACH years ago. When I was at school, thoroughly enjoyed SUPERCOACH. I kept very much up to date with everything, but I went off it for a few years. I just sort of lost a bit of interest. But last year we came back and it was a bit of a rough start. I actually, funny thing is, I looked at my first video, the first round final team, and I made some weird selections. I wasn't quite in the game. I think it wasn't a terrible team, but there were definitely a few silly choices. Now, this one is going to be, obviously, we look over here, there's still 25 days until the lockout, 25 days until that first game, which is approaching pretty quickly, but still a lot of time to go. This team is definitely going to change without doubt, but it's sort of a rough team to start with, and I think a pretty good start. I think I'm going to be a lot better. I'm going to go better this year. I had some good weeks, but I think because I screwed up the first, the very start team was a bit screwed up, so I took a lot of time to actually trade in players to get that good structure for a team that I'm going to be starting off better. So, SUPERCOACH is very up and down. You think you can have a great team, but injuries, suspensions, it can kill you, and just cheapies that you didn't pick up, it's tough. And I feel like this year there's a lot less cheapie. Like last year, you look like Ponga, Kotrick, Brian Kelly, a couple other guys, and I don't know, this year it seems like every player is way more expensive. I can't remember if maybe the salary cap is up this year. I can't even remember, honestly, but we'll go through the team. You guys can see a bit of it at the moment here, but as you see there, we do have 27k remaining, but like I said, it's gonna change before round one. I'll do but when we get closer, I'll do a final team round one. But also, I think creating for you guys to join the league, I think I saw it before. I just have to copy and paste this link, and I'll paste it into the description of this video or the comment section. I think you guys can click on that link and obviously join the league. I think that's pretty much how it works. I think there's 20 teams in the league, so that should all work out okay. So let's go through the team. Starting off the hookers, I've gone with Cameron Smith. The funny thing is, I very rarely, even when I was back in SUPERCOACH previously, I always sort of skipped Smith because I always felt that he was always the most expensive player, and I always thought that I could get away with having a cheaper dummy half, saving 100, 200k, and making it up elsewhere. And I'm still half considering that. I know the top players would always pick Smith, and I might just stick with him because he is the best hooker by a fair margin. But I look and I'm like, McCulloch he went pretty good last year until he got injured, but the risk with McCulloch is obviously he's coming back from that ACL injury, so game time might be down, and I might just stick with Smith. Also, Origin is not going to affect SUPERCOACH as much this year with the buys and stuff, so having more Origin players is actually not a hindrance this year. The backup is Havili. Now, the Raiders obviously it's either going to be Havili or Garvey, and they might both play, but depending who starts, I'll probably just switch them in. Just a cheapie on the bench to earn a little bit of cash. Sort of like a Jaden Brayley from last year, hopefully. The other front rowers, we have Burgess and Jesse Bromwich. I'm pretty set with Burgess. Jesse Bromwich, I'm unsure of, because the thing I'm looking at is Matt Scott coming back this year. Matt Scott is 340k, and I'm sort of they're probably players Jesse Bromwich used to be an absolute gun, but the Storm have a lot of depth in the forwards. A heap of depth in the forwards, honestly. Also Cassiano comes into the team now. Obviously, I think Christian Welsh will be back from injury, or fairly soon anyway. Obviously, they've got a lot of depth there. A lot of good young forwards, Asafa Solomona. Like, they got a lot of props, and I don't see Bromwich ever going back to like his previous, 60-minute, 70-minute performances. So I feel like I might switch Bromwich for Matt Scott. Get some cash, and also Matt Scott. But he's a risk as well. I'm very torn at the moment on who my other front row is going to be, because Matt Scott, again, he's not going to play like massive minutes. Obviously, when he's on the field, he'll probably score pretty well, I feel. But they do also, the Cowboys obviously also have a lot of good young forwards, and yeah, it's a tough one. But then we have Matt Lodge and Kickow, both cheapies, I guess. They're not quite the cheapest, but Kickow, I might potentially trade Kickow for like someone who is a now cheapie, like 160, 170k, just to get a bit more value. But Kickow, he could potentially have a bit of a breakout year, so I don't know. And Matt Lodge, he's another one that's he's not quite a now cheapie, but he's obviously, I think he's going to be pretty good for the Broncos. So I sort of like these two guys there. The second rowers at the moment, I have Mannering, Takeaho, and Trent Merrin. And I'm pretty safe with Mannering, but these two, I'm tossing and turning as well. I'm sort of there's still heaps of time to go, and you got to get closer to the time to see what the teams are going to line up as. Because Takeaho, on his day, like, he could be the goal kicker. If he's playing lock and he's going to be their number one goal kicker, you would expect him to play big minutes. And obviously last year the injuries ruined his season, but he's a quality player. Like, he's a workhorse, as well as being a fairly decent impact player. If you add on the goal kicking, I think he could be a pretty good pickup. And Trent Merrin, like, he's not cheap. Again, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like a lot of these players, like, way more expensive than what I thought. Like, last year he only averaged like 50, and he's still like over 500k. So I'm a bit, I don't know. Trent Merrin, iffy on him as well. But I feel like, obviously, Cartwright's left. Also, Latu has left the Panthers. So Trent Merrin potentially playing lock might play bigger minutes with, like, Kickow, Moses Leota. They're sort of, they're front rowers, or Kickow's probably more of a back rower. But Merrin could potentially play more minutes. Hopefully he gets back to some more offloads. So I think I might keep Merrin, but we'll see. And Mannering, I think I'm just going to keep him. I could potentially, I think I could trade Mannering for like Paul Gallen, but I sort of feel like Mannering is a little bit cheaper, and he averages like the same as Gallen, and he's always going to be up and about, Mannering, like he always is every year. He's obviously getting on a bit, but I think he's always going to play 80 minutes, unless he gets injured. That's the big thing, but I'm pretty set with Mannering there. And then the bench, or the reserves here, Bryce Cartwright. I mean, everyone's going to have Cartwright, honestly. He's 260,000. He's gone to the Titans. You would expect him to play, I think they were talking he's going to play lock at the Titans, and if he plays big minutes, his price is going to increase, like, without doubt. Everyone's going to pick him up, so it's nothing too flash there. And then we got Butcher, who, for the last probably couple of seasons, he's been touted as like this future, very solid player for the Roosters. I don't know if he's going to get any games this year as well. I'll see. Like, again, a lot of these like cheapies that I have, got to wait until like closer to round one to see if they're actually going to play. If Butcher is like named, then he's probably going to be a pretty good pickup. He's probably not going to play like big minutes, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. Could just potentially trade him out for another cheapie that could play. And then I've picked up Reece Martin here as well, who I do know Reece Martin, used to play footy with him, so that's the reason. I feel like he should get a start for the Bulldogs. He's such a good player. He tore it up for PNG, and he's a monster. But I don't know. I don't know what the Bulldogs are going to do. They should play him. They really should. But yeah, that's the reason I've got him here. Halfback, Jonathan Thurston. I think, again, he's like very popular because he's fairly cheap for Thurston standards. Obviously, last year didn't play much, but he's pretty much just a shoo-in, really. Have to pick him up. Not going to be playing Origin, and injuries potential. Obviously, every player has potential for injuries, but Thurston is probably a little bit higher risk. But I think you just have to have him in there to start. Lachlan Croker as the backup here, and he's tipped to start for the Seagulls. We've got to wait and see on the Todd Carney situation, because if they can pick Todd Carney up for 80 to 100,000 a year, they're going to start with Carney without doubt. So we'll have to wait and see. But Lachlan Croker, if they don't pick up Carney, then Croker will start. And if Croker starts, we'll go into the 5/8 here. But I've got Connor Watson here, but I potentially might just get rid of Connor Watson for another cheaper player and just put Croker as one of the reserves and free up the cash for someone else. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But I've got Connor Watson as the backup and also one of my reserves, who again, he's at that awkward price. He's definitely not cheap, but he potentially could score really well. He's a funny one because, Connor Watson is going to start, but he's not going to be goal kicking, and he's a ball runner. I'm curious to see how much work he gets through as the starting 5/8 at the Knights. Is he going to be like a Milford, doing like 15, like even like a Johnson doing like 15, 20 runs a game? We'll see. He could be a great pickup. I'm skeptical as well, but he potentially, I might just keep him in there because he's got that potential to really boost, I guess. And my starting 5/8 is Cameron Munster. Now, Munster as well, I'm not entirely sure. I actually haven't seen where they're going to be playing Munster. I'm assuming he's going to play in the halves with Cronk leaving, and Munster was so good last year in the halves. He's a half that does plenty of tackling. He probably averaged 20 tackles a game, averaged probably 20 runs a game. He's a working half, but he's also got that pedigree to get line breaks, to get try assist. So I feel like Munster is a pretty good pickup, but do got to wait and see to see exactly where he plays. I would imagine he's playing in the halves, but who knows? Things could change. But I'm pretty happy with Munster. He's one of the more expensive players, but I think it's a pretty good pickup. Now, the wing centers, things could change here. Things could change here for sure. So I've got Jordan Rapana, Jared Croker, Tane Milne, and Latrell Mitchell. Now, Milne, I'm pretty much set. Again, this guy, everyone's going to pick him up really cheap because last year, he was coming off the bench for the Dragons. He's a quality player. He's extremely quality. He should be starting for the Tigers. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. And he's another guy that he takes plenty of runs. He's got a good offload, and he's strong in defense. So his price is going to skyrocket. Now, having him in the starting team might seem a bit weak, but I don't know. I feel like he's going to score 40s, 50s, potentially more, but having him on the starting team means I free up a lot of cash elsewhere. So I'm pretty happy with that. Jared Croker, I'm pretty much set. He's set 490k, pretty cheap for Croker. Obviously, goal kicker. Injuries last year, didn't perform at his best, but I'm very happy he's set. Jordan Rapana, he's very expensive, but I know people, might think that he's a winger and his scores, they're surely going to drop one year. He's always up there, but I sort of don't see it because he's always going to take those scoots. He's a worker, he's a Mansour type. He's going to take 20 runs a game, and he just can't be. They just can't tackle him. He's always going to get those tackle breaks. He's going to get a few offloads. I feel like I'm going to start with Rapana. I usually never bring him in because then he always skyrockets. He's up 700k, and then you just can't afford him. So I feel like bite the bullet early, bring him in, hope that he goes amazing to start, but even if he doesn't, probably just stick with him and hope he breaks out. But our other one, Latrell Mitchell, he's probably the wild card here because there are a lot of decent centre wings around that 500k. But Latrell Mitchell, he's a tough one because he can do some freakish things. You know, he's compared to Inglis, which is unsurprising, but he's also a guy that can get very lazy and just not do much. But the fact that now it's Cronk in the halves, I just feel like they're going to be a bit smarter, use him a bit more in attack, but I could potentially trade Mitchell out. There are quite a few options in the wing center spot, so yeah, he's not a shoo-in either, but I'm fairly happy with the wing centers. On the reserves, we have Zarko, who I think potentially, like, I'm not exactly sure how the Broncos are going to line up, but he's fairly safe to potentially get a wing starting spot. Lalisalo? Alicio? Layla Licio? Saying like that. The funny thing is I can hear the pronunciation in my head because I'm pretty sure this is the guy that has been tearing up in the Toyota Cup for a couple of seasons now. Isn't he? I'm pretty sure he's a massive winger, and he's been tipped for big things. I don't know if he's going to start for the Eels, but I've got him in here. And then Zach Lomax, who again, I don't think he's going to play. I think it was out of like him and Dufty for the fullback spot. So I mean, hopefully he gets the go at fullback. But again, like these cheapies, just have to wait till closer to see who actually plays and trade out accordingly, pretty much. And then the fullbacks, Tedesco was certainty. Everyone has to get Tedesco pretty much. And then the big one here, I've got Jared Hayne. Now this is probably the biggest one. I'm probably going to trade Hayne out because, I mean, he's 420,000, which seems super overpriced for what he did last year. But I just have a feeling that he's going to do well at the Eels. Like, all the pressure's on him, right? He's going back to his childhood team. You know, he's with Brad Arthur again. Like, all the pressure's on him to actually perform because he's had all these excuses coming back from the NFL. He's playing for Neil Henry. You know, he's had all the excuses. But now he's over to the Eels, the team he wants to play for. I mean, he has to perform, right? So I sort of feel like he's going to go good, but I don't know. I feel like I'll probably trade him out. I would love to bring in like Trebojevic, have like Tedesco and Trebojevic as the fullbacks. And I could potentially do that by like getting rid of Watson for a cheapie and using that money. But yeah, that's the team at the moment. It's tough. There's quite a few. It feels tough this year. There doesn't seem to be as many like cheapie options that are certainties, and a lot of the big names are like just really, they just seem to be more expensive than usual. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like the team's pretty good. There's definitely some changes I'll be making before the round one, but yeah, that's the team to start with. Hopefully, guys, you know, are going to enjoy the series. Get involved with it. Like I said, I'll put like the link in the comments, and I'm pretty sure you just click on the link and join the league. 20 spots. So obviously, first in gets the spot. But yeah, it should be a fun series. I had fun with it last year. I think, you know, there was a couple of weeks there where I was away and it sort of declined because I didn't have the time to do the, you know, make my team proper, and then the team just sort of fell away. So that's why I didn't continue making the videos. But hopefully this year we start off strong and I can continue, you know, properly into the season. So yeah, that's this first episode, the preseason of the team. A little bit of a beta team at the moment. Not definitely not set in stone, but quite a few players that obviously will stay. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, and I'll see you in the next one.